Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Today we're going to do the Maha Rahulovāda Sutta. So I hope you have your notes with you and a pencil or pen so you can make notes. It's very useful to make notes so you can follow up anytime when you like to read them again. The translation I've done is about 12 pages, just the sutta itself. And of these 8 pages, the first part on the Buddha teaching Rāhula up to the teaching on the 4 divine abodes and the 4 element-like meditation. Then the second part, 4 pages, are on the 16 steps of the breath meditation. So that is also very interesting. So today I will try to finish off all the first 8 pages, which are not too difficult, in the first half, and then do the 16 steps of the breath meditation in the second stage. Second part, we'll see how it goes, more or less. Okay, let's look at the introduction here. Let's go back to the top on the blurb, on which gives us an idea of this. Yeah, it's a good habit to look at this top right hand corner, so you're familiar with the sutta, you know the sutta. Okay, right. So the title is Maha Rahulovāda Sutta. When you see Maha, very often there is a chula, there is a smaller version. Maha has different meanings. Sometimes it refers to the sutta, sometimes it refers to the teaching. Okay, we've got to go back to the top. Okay, right to the top, to the title page 1, Maha Rahulovāda. Then the second line is the translation itself, the name of the sutta, the greater discourse on the advice to Rāhula. So Maha means greater, great or greater. Then Rāhul'ovāda is called a compound. Now you can see an apostrophe there, that means a letter is missing, A is missing, the vowel A, Rāhula. Okay, and Ovāda. Now you can see the word vada there. Vada means speech. Okay, then Ovāda, speech given downwards. Okay, in other words, like from a teacher to the pupil. So Ovāda means advice, the advice to Rāhula. Sutta means thread or teaching. So the greater discourse on the advice to Rāhula. M62. Right. So this is either remember the number or the name of the sutta. Notice it's just it follows the Ambalatika Rahulovada Sutta, which we did the last time. And the theme here is meditations to overcome attachment to the body. Okay, this is a general idea. Right? In fact, there are quite a number of meditation given there. So let's look at the sutta right away now on the translation. Let's go down. There's a lot of notes there, so go down, I don't know, about 12 pages maybe. So the starting is the same in all the suttas. I go down some more. It begins with thus have I heard. Yeah, some more, down some more. You got to see the words Maha Rahulovāda. Yes, yeah, go down. Yeah, some more, yeah. A bit more, yes, a bit more. A bit more, yes, we're coming to it, yes. Some more, yeah, some more, yeah. You got to go down some more, yeah. Some more. There are other suttas here also, shorter suttas which you can read, which are connected with the Maha Rahulovāda Sutta. A bit more, yeah, a bit more, coming around. Nearly there, a bit more. Okay, here we are. Thus have I heard. At one time, the Blessed One was staying in Anathapindika's park in Jeta's Grove near Savatthi. So this is a usual place where the Buddha lived more or less during the last 25 years of his life. And Ananda was his personal attendant. Then when it was dawn, the Blessed One, having dressed, taking bowl and robe, entered Savatthi for alms. The Venerable Rāhula too, having dressed, taking bowl and outer robe, followed close behind the Blessed One. So here we see a very common scene with the monks in early days of Buddhism. So here Rāhula is called Pacha Samana. Pacha means behind, Samana is the recluse following behind the teacher. So he's following the Buddha. In Thailand, when I was a monk there in the morning, when there are novices under training, and I was a monk, we have a string of novices following behind me or behind another monk. If there are a lot of novices, I'll ask another senior monk to lead them, and I will stand behind and keep an eye on these novices, because sometimes their ropes are not properly tied, so I'll be watching them. And when we walk in a row like that, it's called, we go crocodile. It's the term we use, because we go in a row. Right? So, but here you have the Buddha in front and Rāhula is at the back. So Rāhula is looking at his father, admiring him, but he is very proud, he's very happy to see the Buddha. Let's see what happens next. It's a very interesting, very human description. Yes. Section 3, paragraph 3 here. Then the Blessed One turned around at the Venerable Rāhula and addressed him thus. Okay, notice we don't get much information here. First of all, we are told Buddha is walking and then Rāhula is behind. And then paragraph 3, the Buddha turned around. This turn around also, we are told the Buddha turns completely around. He doesn't just crane his neck. He turns around. So in other words, they stop for a while and the Buddha turns around and then he tells Rāhula something. So if you look carefully at this part, the first part is actually given standing, while the Rāhula and the Buddha are standing, until the part where he meets Rāhula. Okay, just up to section 4. No? It's not very long. The Buddha is just giving him a short early morning teaching. Okay, why? The question is why? Because it is said that, you see, Rāhula at that time is 18 years old. Previously, in the Ambalatika Rahulovada Sutta, he was only 7 years old. If you remember, and the Buddha taught him on telling the truth. Okay. Now this time, Rāhula is 18 years old. He's a teenager. So he's looking at his father, the Buddha, and he's very proud. The Sakyas are very strong warriors. So he's admiring the Buddha's body, like what most teenagers would do. And so he has all kinds of lustful thoughts in his mind. He's thinking, oh, wow, this is my father. He looks very good, very pretty, very, very handsome. And I'm also like him, and so on. So the Buddha could read these unwholesome thoughts in Rāhula. So he turns around and tells Rāhula, teaches Rāhula. So that's why we need a commentary here. So from the commentary, you can see all this. You can see note 68, for example, right? The lost notes here. You can see more than half a page of notes here, because we have to know what's the background, right? So reading Rāhula's mind, the Buddha teaches him about the 5 aggregates. The Buddha only mentions the first of the 5 aggregates. Rāhula, whatever form, whether past, future, or present, internal or external, gross or subtle, superior or inferior, inferior or superior, far or near, all forms should be seen as it really is, with right wisdom thus. This is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself. All right. So this is basically the full definition, sutta definition of form, rupa. All right. I've spoken in detail about this in the other talk on the mind, the 5 aggregates, BMM. All right. So whether past, future, or present, and so on, this is called the totality formula. So just remember the word totality formula. You can look it up. This is the full definition of all kinds of form. All right, rupa, form. The Buddha says we should see form as it really is. In other words, it's impermanent. But here, the Buddha tells Rāhula, he has to do something special. Reflect on non-self in this case. This form that you see before you, the form that is the Buddha, this is not mine. It's not my body anyway. I am not this. It's not myself. So you don't own it. Just let it go, basically. So this is what the Buddha says. Yeah? Now let's see what Rāhula says. Remember, Rāhula is a young 18-year-old boy. 3.2. You have to imagine how Rāhula says this. Okay, this very warm father-son situation. Only material form, blessed one. Only material form, Sugata, or welfare. All right. So there's almost a sense of being cheeky because he's the son, so he's talking to his father. He says, only material form. So here he's trying to, in a way, show that he knows what the Buddha is talking about. Like any son you will do to the father. So I know what you're going to talk about. So he basically knows the 5 aggregates. So he knows to say, oh, you're talking about rupa, right? So it's the only form, right? Only material form, only rupa. That's all he says, okay? Then the Buddha replies, the Buddha continues. Perhaps the Buddha has not finished talking. See, the Buddha stopped very calmly, very slowly. And Rāhula just kind of like excitedly cuts in, being a bit cheeky maybe, or just happy that his father is addressing him. Then the Buddha continues, he says, material form, Rāhula. And, so there's a stress there, and feelings too, Rāhula. Perception too, Rāhula. Mental formations too, Rāhula. And consciousness too, Rāhula. Notice there is this punctuation. Rāhula is repeated after every one of the 5 aggregates. So you have these vocatives. Né? Very often the Buddha will address the person by name or address the monks, bhikkhus, and this is very important. In some commercial translation, you see, to save space, the translator just don't translate the vocatives. You know? For example, the Rāhula only appears once, or bhikkhu doesn't appear at all, and so on. But I think it's important to have all these words there, so you know the effect, how the Buddha is talking to Rāhula in this case. So he's very calmly telling Rāhula, these are the 5 aggregates, all the 5 aggregates. You should not own them. Then the Venerable Rāhula thought, who indeed, after being personally exhorted by the Blessed One himself today, would go into the city for alms. So turning back, he sat down at the foot of a certain tree, crossed his legs, and keeping his body upright, established mindfulness before him. Okay. Now, mindfulness before him, the Pali word is parimukhang, parimukha, parimukhang. Some people ask me what this means because there are some teachers who follow the Padisambhita Magga, for example, commentaries that interpret parimukha as around the nose or on the middle of the upper lip. But in practice, of course, you can try that if that works for you. But generally, it will be simply, it means to have mindfulness established before you. You are mindful, basically. So parimukha is used as idiomatic way referring to establishing mindfulness fully before you. Don't lose it, in other words, right? Anyway, if you want to have more details, just read the note 74, okay? So Rāhula is very happy. He said, wow, my father, the Buddha, has given me teachings, so this is so wonderful. It's a personal teaching. I should be meditating on this. So he doesn't think about food in this case. He said, I want to meditate because he's so happy. He's filled with Dhamma joy. So he's meditating. Now the Buddha leaves, the Buddha goes on his arms round. So you got to picture all this, right? So now Rāhula is sitting alone under a tree. And here comes Sariputta. This is verse 5. The Venerable Sariputta saw the Venerable Rāhula sitting at the foot of the tree, with legs crossed, his body upright, with mindfulness established before him. Having seen the Venerable Rāhula, he addressed him. Cultivate the mindfulness of in and out breathing, Rāhula. When the mindfulness of in and out breathing is cultivated and continually develop, Rāhula. It is of great fruit and great benefit, right? So the elder Sariputta comes along. He does not know that the Buddha has taught Rāhula the 5 brigades. So he sees this young novice meditating, and he advises, well, do some breath meditation, okay? So Rāhula has, this Sariputta is very compassionate to novices and young monks, so he's always instructing them. Right, so, and then it's in the morning, so he goes on his arms round. Session 6. Then when it was evening, so now the time changes, no? The Venerable Rāhula came out of his retreat. So now we have some idea how long he sat from morning until evening, whole day, meditating. So he came out of his retreat and went up to the Blessed One. Having approached and saluted the Blessed One, he sat down at one side. So now he goes back to the Buddha and he talks to the Buddha. Session 7. Bhante, how is the mindfulness of in and out breathing cultivated? How is it continuously developed so that it is of great fruit and great benefits, right? So he's curious because Sariputta mentioned the breath meditation to him, but without details. So now he goes back to the Buddha to know how to do this, right? Now the Buddha doesn't immediately answer this, as I told you before. The first 8 pages of Buddha will give him a basic preliminary teaching. And only the last 4 pages of Buddha will talk about the breath meditation in full, right? So the Buddha is giving preparatory practice. So this gives us an idea also how we can make our breath meditation effective. Remember, the Buddha is teaching his young 18-year-old novice. So it helps us as beginners to note how the Buddha teaches Rāhula. So first, the Buddha talks about the 5 elements. Now, just now we did a bit of meditation on the 4 elements. Here we have 5 elements. So 4 elements are earth, water, fire, wind. And the 5th element is space. The space is not exactly an element by itself, but it is grouped as a set called the 5 elements. Space is a derived element. In other words, when there is this element, say earth, whatever is not earth around it and not the other 3 elements, that is space. All right. So, for example, later on we look at the reflection on space. There is space in our body also. We'll come to that in a while. Okay. So let's look at the 4 elements and then the 5th element, how it is defined. This is one of the suttas where these elements are defined in quite some detail. Section 8. Notice the brackets 1 and the brackets 1 is italicized. That means there's a set. Italicized number is a set. So this first one is on the earth element. What Rāhula is the earth element? What is hardness? Patavīdhatu. Okay. Now this is a square bracketed, the square bracket, because in the original sutta there is, these words are not there, but this is found in the what's called the Dhatu Sutta before the sutta. If you look at the Rāhula Dhatu Sutta, is there. Okay, so I've just put this in so it's easy for you to follow and understand what the Buddha is going to talk about. He's going to talk about the earth element. Now, then there is a second line. The earth element may be either internal or external. Here again is also square brackets. Square bracket means originally is not there, but it is put in for your convenience. Because in all the other 3 elements, this line is there. There is the internal earth element, internal earth, water, fire, wind, external earth, water, fire, wind. So it can be internal, external. Anyway, the sutta records the Buddha is teaching Rāhula about the first element. So this is how the Buddha defines the earth element. Rāhula, Rāhula, whatever that is hard, solid or solidified, and clung to internally, that is within yourself, separately, one by one, in other words. And here you have 4 sets. Now, before I go to the 4 sets, let me explain the line a bit. hard, in other words, there is resistance, okay? Anything solid or solidified. Clung to refers to it arises from past karma. And because of that, we cling to it and it continues to grow. We continue to create karma. So it is karma based, okay? And then internally can refer to your internal organs. Externally is the sense object. So you have the 6 internal sense bases: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, plus mind. External will be the 6 sense objects: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, thoughts. So that's one meaning. But when you apply this meaning, internal means eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. So that is the internal element. They are regarded as earth element. Okay, at least the first 5 senses are earth element. Then whatever you see, smell, taste, touch, which is out there, external sense bases or sense objects, those are the external earth elements. Okay. Then the Buddha defines the earth element according to the 32 parts of the body. So all this is arranged nicely for you. In the Sutta, everything is arranged. There's no arrangement. In the commercial translation, everything is given you one big chunk. So one thing good about in the Sutta Discovery, we arrange everything nicely, so it helps you to remember. And there's a reason why we line them up. And then there is a last word. There's a column: skin, kidneys, lungs, dung. There is a reason why we put it that way. Okay, let's look at the first line. What is the earth element? Head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin. Okay, these are called the 5 beginning with skin, or rather ending with skin. Okay, Tacha Panchaka. Okay, so in other words, this is the first we reflect. In fact, when one becomes a monk, this is the first thing he learns at the end of the ordination. The novice teacher will instruct the newly ordained monks, says, reflect, meditate on this: head hair, body hair, nail, teeth, skin. Right? So this is what I made up of. I have head hair, body hair, nail, teeth, skin. These are all earth element. This is called the skin 5. So they take the last name as a short form, the mnemonic, skin 5. Next, you have the kidney 5. So what is the earth element? Flesh, sinews, bones, bone marrow, kidneys. This is called the kidney 5. That's how you remember it. So maybe the novice master will ask, okay, what are the kidney 5? So flesh, sinews, bone marrow, kidneys. Sinew is the muscles. Huh? Then third line, you have the lung 5. Okay, as an adjective, you don't have to put s. No? So the lung 5 will be heart, liver, membranes around the lungs or the pleura, spleen, and lungs. Set of 5. And then the last one. The last one is interesting because in the Sutta actually, you only have large intestine, small intestine, stomach contents. Dung is not mentioned. There are only 3 here. And dung is added in later during the commensal times to complete it. Okay, so you can read out the details in the notes later on. So this is only part of our body which constitute the earth element. So the next line, or whatever else that is hard, solid, and clung to internally, separately. So here we have other parts of the body which are also like bones, and so on. So this is the first reflection on the nature of the earth element. Then now the Buddha goes on to talk about internal and external, right? So there are a lot of notes. Read them in your free time before going to bed, for example. Now the Buddha goes on, 8.2. And whatever is the internal earth element and whatever is the external earth element, internal, external, are simply the earth element. They're the same, hardness. And whatever is the internal earth And that should be seen as it really is with right wisdom thus. This is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself, right? So this is called the disowning reflection, right? So next time, say, you can apply this to negative thoughts also. Let's say you feel depressed, you feel angry, you feel jealous, you feel lustful, whatever, negative thoughts. Just sit down quietly or even stand mindfully and then just kind of turn your mind towards the mind. You use your mind to tame the mind and you reflect. This thought is not mine. This I am not. This is not myself. I'm letting this go. I don't want this. You find you can easily get rid of it, especially anger. Disowning anger is the easiest to practice. Disowning delusion is a bit more difficult, and the most difficult is to disown lastness, but we practice. You find if you say it calmly, mindfully, you can, at least at that time, at that moment, get rid of it temporarily. Having seen it as it really is, with right wisdom thus, one is revolved towards the earth element, detached, mastery towards the earth element. It's not that you hate the earth. You see the nature of the body. You say, oh, this is what it is really. It's earth element, just like, what's outside and what's inside is the same. So that's what it is. There's nothing to be excited about, nothing to be attached. We take care of it, we take good care of it, we show loving kindness to it, and we stay that way we stay healthy. So this is the earth element reflection. All right. Now the Buddha goes on to the second one, section 9. You can see brackets 2 italicized. It means italicized number means the internal set. And what Rahula is the water element or cohesion, stickiness, water element, the function of stickiness. The water element may be either internal or external. And what Rahula is the internal water element. Rahula, the internal, whatever that is water, watery, clung to internally, separately, namely bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, fat. So this is the fat 5, fat 6, sorry, the 6, so they're called the fat 6, okay? So these are 6, this is what we are. Notice what's interesting here, fat is regarded as liquid, as water. Tears, skin grease or tallow, this oiliness on your skin. Saliva, snot, oil of joints, urine. So here we have 6 again, septat 6, urine 6. So this is water element. Okay, so this is how we reflect. Okay, we're made out of this internal water element. And whatever else that is water, watery, and clung to internally, separately, this Rāhula is called internal water element. The next part, the Buddha talks about external water element. The Buddha shows that external water elements are the same. And whatever is the internal water element, whatever is the external water element, are simply water element. They are the same, in other words. And that should be seen, that means the truth should be seen as it really is with right wisdom thus. This is not mine, this I'm not, this is not myself. Don't own it. It's just there, it comes and goes. Even our breath, you can say, we say my breath, but we can't really hold it back. We have to give it back. Having seen it as it really is with right wisdom thus, one is revolved towards it. We know what it is. We're not going to be attached to it. We are detached, lust-free towards the water element. We just let it come, let it go. We respect it. We show loving kindness to it. Smile at it. Now, fire element. Rāhula, what is the fire element? Heat. The fire element may be either internal or external. And what Rāhula is the internal fire element? Rāhula, whatever that is fire, fiery, clung to internally, separately, namely that by which one is warmed, ages and burns, and that by which what is eaten, drunk, chewed, and tasted gets completely digested, or whatever else that is fire, fiery, and clung to internally, separately. This Rahula is called internal fire element. So notice here, this is a really beautiful, very clear and complete definition of fire element. Notice especially third line, and that by which one is warmed, so this your body, you feel warm, temperature, ages, decay, and then burns, metabolism, oxidation. So you see, these are very simple words for complex processes, right? So whatever is eaten, and there are 4 kinds of ways of eating: to eat, drink, chew, taste, right? You can read up the notes in detail. 4 ways of 4 processes of eating, right? Then the Buddha talks about the external fire element, 10.2. And whatever is the internal fire element and whatever is the external fire element are simply fire element. And that should be seen as it really is with right wisdom thus. This is not mine, this I'm not, it's not myself. So don't own it. It comes, it goes. You take it in, you got to give it back. It's not yours. So having seen it as it really is, with right wisdom thus, one is revolves towards the fire element, detached or last free towards the fire element. So accept it, but don't own it. It's like you see a beautiful flower in the garden. You look at it, it's beautiful, you're happy with it. Right? And you have a beautiful cat or a dog, you love this cat or dog, but you respect it, you hug it, but the dog, cat has its own life, so you don't own it in that sense. You love the cat, you love the dog, you take care of it like that. Then 11, the wind element. Rahula, what is the wind element? Or motion, in terms of function is motion. The wind element may be either internal or external. And what, Rahula, is the internal wind element? Rahula, whatever that is wind or air, wind-like or air-like, and clung to internally, separately, namely upgoing winds, downgoing winds, winds in the belly, winds in the chest, winds that course through the limbs, in-breath, out-breath, or whatever else that is wind-like, and clung to internally, separately. This Rahula is called internal wind element, right? This upgoing wind is like when you burp, okay? You breathe out. Downgoing wind is when you push things out of your body downwards, in the toilet, for example, when food is taken down. Winds in the belly, right? So now we have distended stomach. Winds in the chest, that's in your lungs. And then there are winds that move around the body, as it were. This one is actually the movement of your nerves and blood causing this. From this idea, you get the traditional medicine, okay? And then finally, you have this in-breath, out-breath. So this is the internal wind element. Then there's the external wind element, 11.2. And whatever is the internal wind element and whatever is the external wind element are simply wind element. Inside, outside, the wind is the wind element, it's the same. It's air. And that should be seen as it really is with right wisdom thus. This is not mine, this I'm not, this is not myself. Having seen it as it really is with right wisdom thus. One is revolves towards the wind element, detached, last free towards the wind element. So that's the reflection on the wind element. Now we come to the 5th element. This is a special one. Section 12. Rahula, what is the element of space or space element? The space element may be either internal or external. It's your same, you have inside, outside. And what, Rahula, is the internal space element? Rahula, whatever that is space, spatial, and clung to internally, separately, namely the ear canals, the nostrils, the mouth cavity, and the opening whereby whatever is eaten, drunk, taken, and tasted is swallowed, and where it collects and stays, thereby is voided from below, or whatever that is whatever else that is space, spatial, and clung to internally, externally, this Rāhula is called internal space element. So notice that the bold lines, the middle, that opening whereby what is eaten and so on. So this refers to the alimentary canal, the food canal. Okay, that's regarded space. The food goes through there. So the early Buddhists were aware of all this, right? How when we eat, the food goes through the alimentary canal, the food canal, and goes down into the stomach where it is contained. There is space there. So this is internal space element. 12.2. And whatever is the internal space element and whatever is the external space element is simply or are simply the space element. They are the same. Inside space, outside space, no difference. And that should be seen as it really is. With right wisdom thus, this is not mine, this I'm not, this is not myself. Having seen it as it really is, with right wisdom thus, one is revolved towards the space element, detached or last free towards the space element. So this completes the teaching on the 5 elements. Now the Buddha gives Rāhula a very special teaching, unique to him. In fact, this is not found anywhere else. It's found only here in this sutta. What are called the 5 element-like meditation, which we did earlier on today. All right, so I taught you the basic method. You can develop it. You can watch the video again and read this sutta and then build up from this. Section 13, the first element-like meditation. Rāhula, cultivate an earth-like meditation. For Rāhula, when you cultivate an earth-like meditation, agreeable and disagreeable contexts that have a reason will not overpower your mind and remain. Okay? All right, looks like I have to stop here. It's 9 o'clock. So I will continue. Just nice to talk on these 5 elements, right? Okay, let's have a short break here. Okay, now we continue with the element-like meditation. Rāhula, cultivate an element-like meditation. For Rāhula, when you cultivate an earth-like meditation, agreeable and disagreeable context. So here, context refer to whatever you sense. Okay, something pleasant or something unpleasant. See, hear, smell, taste, touch, think. So whenever something negative arises, you see something you're not happy, you hear something you're not happy, you use this. Then this negative thought or negative idea will not overpower you or will not overpower your mind and remain. How do you reflect? So this is the next section, 13.2. Rāhula, just as they throw things clean on the earth, they throw things foul. They throw dung, they throw urine, they throw spittle, they throw pus, they throw blood upon it. But the earth is neither troubled nor disgusted because of that. So it's the nature of earth, in other words. Earth always there supporting us. So we become earth-like. We become supportive to others. We become like earth. We become strong like earth. This is a very good reflection for children, young people. It's a very easy reflection, right? So there's something worth remembering, even using in counseling. So if you meet someone who is, say, full of fear, say, okay, choose one of the elements. You have 4 elements, choose one. We all have different characters. You know, in the Middle Ages in the West, the 4 elements are called humus. So you have different characters actually, right? So some people they like earth, some people like water, fire, wind. You even have a what you call young people's movie about these 4 elements. So you use this for meditation, right? So then the Buddha continues, next section. So too, Rāhula, cultivate an earth-like meditation. For Rāhula, when you cultivate an earth-like meditation, agreeable and disagreeable contacts that have a reason will not overpower your mind and remain. Right? So this is how we apply the 4 elements in meditation using the divine abodes using loving kindness especially. Next is water-like meditation. 14. Rahula, cultivate a water-like meditation. For Rahula, when you cultivate a water-like meditation, agreeable and disagreeable contexts that have arisen will not overpower your mind and remain. How do you reflect? 14.2. Rahula, just as they wash things clean in water, they wash things foul, they wash dung, they wash urine, they wash spittle, they wash pus, they wash blood in it. But the water is neither troubled, nor ashamed, nor disgusted because of that. So too, Rahula, cultivate a water-like meditation. For Rahula, when you cultivate a water-like meditation, agreeable and disagreeable contexts that have a reason will not overpower your mind and remain. So be strong like water. Reflect on the positive qualities of water and say, okay, I'm going to be like water, right? You notice in the movies, they actually use all these qualities and make it very magical in the movies. No? Next is fire-like. So you can, if you like fire, you choose fire for your meditation. Fire-like meditation to strengthen your mind. Section 15. Rahula, cultivate a fire-like meditation. For Rahula, when you cultivate a fire-like meditation, agreeable and disagreeable contexts that have a reason will not overpower your mind and remain. So in other words here, sometimes the feeling may be too overpowering, very strong lust, so you use this to overcome it. Or very strong hate, you can use this fire-like meditation to overcome it also. 15.2. Rahula, just as fire burns the clean, burns the foul, it burns dung, it burns urine, it burns spittle, it burns pus, it burns blood. But the fire is neither troubled, nor ashamed, nor disgusted because of that. So too, Rahula, cultivate a fire-like meditation. For Rahula, when you cultivate a fire-like meditation, agreeable and disagreeable contexts that have a reason will not overpower your mind and remain. Now next is the wind-like meditation, section 16. Rahula, cultivate a wind-like or air-like meditation. For Rahula, when you cultivate a wind-like meditation, agreeable and disagreeable contexts that have a reason will not overpower your mind and remain. And this is how you do it. Section 16.2. Rahula, just as the wind blows on the clean, it blows on the foul. It blows on dung, it blows on urine, it blows on spittle, it blows on pus, it blows on blood. But the wind is neither troubled, nor ashamed, nor disgusted because of that. So this wind is kind of calm and strong. Yeah? So too, Rāhula, cultivate a wind-like meditation. For Rāhula, when you cultivate a wind-like meditation, agreeable and disagreeable contexts that have a reason will not overpower your mind and remain. So these 4 elements meditation is quite easy. But some people may find the 5th element easy to meditate. So it depends. The 5th element actually is quite tricky, but some people may like it. Section 17. Rāhula, cultivate a space-like meditation. For Rāhula, when you cultivate a space-like meditation, agreeable and disagreeable contexts that have a reason will not overpower your mind and remain. Rāhula, just as space is not established anywhere, so too, Rāhula, cultivate a space-like meditation. For Rāhula, when you cultivate a space-like meditation, agreeable and disagreeable contexts that have a reason will not overpower your mind and remain. So this space is given the shortest definition, right? This space is in our body, and so there's nothing there, okay? And space is what is around us. It supports and contains these 4 elements, right? So we imagine ourselves to be space, We accommodate others. We give space to others. We give space to ourselves, space to grow, and so on. All right. Space is not, there's only one line here, 17.2. Space is not established anywhere, right? So we don't harp on anything. We don't rest our mind on anything. We just let it go, like space, like skylight. If you the word is akasa. So in Malay, it becomes angkasa. It refers to the sky, to space. So let our mind be like space. We contain everything, yet we're not attached to anything. So this is how we reflect on it. Then the Buddha goes on to the 4 divine abodes. They only briefly mentioned, okay? 18 to 21. Rahula practiced the cultivation of loving kindness. For Rahula, when you cultivate loving kindness, ill will be abandoned. And then the Buddha said, okay, practice compassion and cruelty will be abandoned. Practice gladness, joy, discontent will be abandoned. Then number 4, cultivate equanimity, aversion, dislike will be abandoned. So these are very short, summarized teachings, right? Later on, surely the Buddha will go into detail, but here the basic teachings are given in preparation for breath meditation. Number 22, section 22, the Buddha goes on to say, Rahula, practice the cultivation of foulness of the body. Remember, Rahula had this lastful thought about beauty of the Buddha. For Rahula, when you cultivate foulness, lust will be abandoned. Again, no details are given at this point. Now comes the last instruction before breath meditation. 23. Rahula, cultivate the perception of impermanence. Okay, this is the key practice I've been talking about, impermanence. For Rahula, when you cultivate the perception of impermanence, the conceit I am will be abandoned, right? Or what's called self-identity view. You overcome this, and then you go on to attain stream winning. So all these teachings bring Rahula to the last part of the sutta on the cultivation of in and out breathing. Here, the Buddha teaches all the 16 steps to Rahula. Now, there's not enough time to go into all these details. I will summarize for you, give you a key idea. The opening is the same, standard opening regarding meditation. 24, Rahula, cultivate the mindfulness of in and out breathing. So this is when, remember what Venerable Sariputta was telling Rahula, and Rahula asked this question to the Buddha, and now this is the Buddha's answer. Rahula, the mindfulness of in and out breathing, when cultivated and continuously developed, is of great fruit and great benefit. And then the Buddha says, okay, how do we do this? Section 25. Here, Rahula, a monk who has gone to the forest to the foot of a tree or to an empty place, sits down, having crossed his legs, keeping his body upright, establishes mindfulness before him. Here again, parimukkhang, before him. Mindfully he breathes in, mindfully he breathes out. So this is the one-line summary of the whole practice. Now you have 16 steps. Usually when we practice, when we do our breath meditation, we only do the first 4. These are the basic steps, okay? So the first 4, section 26 is called the first tetrad. Tetrad is a set of 4, observing the body. Breathing in long, he understands breathing in long, or I breathe in long. Breathing out long, he understands breathing out long. Okay, now these are oral instructions, instruction in the oral tradition. We're given step by step. Next pair, or breathing in short, he understands breathing in short. Right? Or of course, you don't say so much words. Short in, maybe you cut down. You mindfully know the breath you're breathing in is short. Or breathing out short, he understands breathing out short. Right? Breathing out, short breath, you note it. So here you have in, out, long breath, in, out, short breath. Right? So Of course, in practice, we don't really need to go through this sequence. We watch whatever happens and we note it that way. So this step 1, step 2 is telling us watch the breath as it is. This is directed meditation. You know whether it's in breath, you know whether it's out breath, and you're also aware it is short or it is long. Of course, during our actual practice, we are not usually told to watch long or short. This is what you do at your own pace. When you're able to, you notice this. This is the mindfulness of it. You know it's long, you know it's short, you know it's in, you know it's out. You know it is fast, you know it is slow. Then notice here, he says he understands, right? Pajanati. So this is where you look at it, you know it, you are mindful of it, you're watching it. So this is where you direct your mind accordingly. Wherever the attention goes, where you bring it back. Now, the third pair, the verb is different. He trains himself thus. I will breathe in, experiencing the whole body of breath. He trains himself thus. I will breathe out, experiencing the whole body of breath. So here, the word is train, sikati. So this is where you keep on doing it in an undirected way in this case, because here you can only feel, experience means to feel the whole body of breath only by letting go, right? So here, whole body of breath means you see the breath coming in, going out, coming in, going out, right? But in our practice, we have simplified it to, you begin to notice when the breath slows down, then you know that the breath is calming down. So that's where actually it's the fourth pair. He trains himself thus, I will breathe in, calming the bodily formation of breath. Bodily formation here refers to the breath itself, whether the breath is active or not. So this is where, if the breath is still active, you watch it so, and then by letting go, the breath will slow down. How do you know this? You notice the space between the in and out growing. So the bodily formation, the breath as a physical experience is slowing down, becoming more mental, in other words. So he trains himself thus, I will breathe out, coming the bodily formation of breath. In, out, slowing down the breath. This is what the fourth pair refers to. So this is the most important set to understand, the first four, right? Now, so when you do this properly, sometimes even in your normal practice, you will feel next stage is joy. That's called zest. This one is session 27, second tetrad, observe feelings. Right? When you say observe feelings, you're already talking about satipatthana already. So now if the fifth pair, he trains himself thus, I will breathe in, experiencing zest. You feel joyful, right? When you notice the spaces in between the in and out, the space is very peaceful, they become bright, it makes you happy, you feel good. So, of course, sometimes you don't see the brightness, especially when the meditation is short, you don't notice it, but you feel a sense of peace and joy. That's a kind of zest or piti, zest or joy. So you just note it. So you breathing in, you feel it's joyful, you breathe out, it's joyful. Then the sixth pair, he trains himself thus. That means you keep on doing this by letting go of other thoughts, letting go of distractions, smiling. He trains himself thus, I will breathe in, experiencing joy. He trains himself thus, I will breathe out, experiencing joy. Okay, you got zest. Zest is this very exuberant, powerful feeling, active. Whereas joy, sukha, is karma. Okay, karma. The activity part is lessened. Okay, it's calm. Okay, so it's called sukha. The first zest is called piti, joy is called sukha. Then the seventh pair, he trains himself thus, I will breathe out, understanding the mental formations. I will breathe out, understanding the mental formations. So breathe in, breathe out, understand what is mental formation. In other words, you notice the breathing is very active even with joy, right? There's still something not complete yet. Yes, it's joyful, but we are not there yet. So you just notice as it is. You understand all these are mind-made, they are impermanent. Of course, this you reflect coming out of this peaceful state, right? So the mental function here refers to the whole breath acting as it does, right? The way the breath acts. You just watch it as it is. You begin to know the breath better. It's a bit tricky when you talk about this, but once you start meditating, you know. But remember, this one is already on some kind of samadhi, some kind of even jhana may have arisen by now. So I think we are talking about a step further beyond what you are practicing now. You may discover this, so you have a better idea when you actually see it. So this is the theory behind it. Okay, next is number 8, 8th pair. He trains himself thus, I will breathe in calming the mental formations. He trains himself thus, I will breathe out calming mental formation. So here is where you basically let go of all those, even the joy itself. You just let it be. You see this calmness, this brightness in front of you, you let it be. You don't add on to it, you just let it be. It will deal with itself. You can't do anything to it. If you do anything to it, then it's no more there, it will disappear. So this is the second tetrad. Now you come to the third tetrad, section 28. Section 27 refers to feelings. This tetrad refers to observing the mind itself. So now the feeling has calmed down, the joy has calmed down. So in other words, it's like second jhana, Piti Sukha is no more there. Section 9. He trains himself thus, I will breathe in experiencing or feeling the mind. He trains himself thus, I will breathe out experiencing the mind. This is when you really know what your mind is like. When all those feelings have settled down, you see the mind more clearly. And then the 10th pair, he trains himself, notice the verb is train. I will breathe in gladdening the mind, I will breathe out gladdening the mind. So now we come to even a more subtle sense of joy, gladdening it, like mudita, So you bring the joy, a kind of more subtle joy to this mind. You brighten it up. 11th pair, he trains himself thus, I will breathe in concentrating the mind, I will breathe out concentrating the mind. So when you bring joy to the mind will focus itself, right? Although we say, I will do this, I will do that, actually it happens by itself, by letting go. The concentration will arise, the samadhi will arise. And when the concentration arises, the mind becomes free. That is a 12th pair. He trains himself thus, I will breathe in, freeing the mind. He trains himself thus, I will breathe out, freeing the mind. So here the mind is liberated, the mind liberated from suffering, from defilements. The mind becomes pure mind afterwards. So this is the mind itself. You begin to really understand what the mind is. Now the next thing is what do we do with the mind, right? So dhammas arise, realities arise. This is the section 29, the 4th tetrad, the last tetrad. 13th pair, brackets 13. He trains himself thus, I will breathe in observing impermanence. He trains himself thus, I will breathe out observing impermanence. Okay, here is where you come out of the jhana, whether it is first, second, third, or fourth jhana, then you reflect on impermanence. So this is the vipassana aspect already. So in other words, up to section 12 or the 12th pair, there is samatha, you're calming the mind, you are preparing your mind for this session 29. So once you're ready, you observe, you reflect on impermanence. How do you do that? You come out of your calmness, your samadhi, you say, oh, this is mind-made, it is conditioned, it is impermanent, like that. You reflect something like that, you build it up. Then you come to pair 14, next one. He trains himself thus, I will breathe in observing fading away of lust. Okay, the sutta on this is fading away. He trains himself thus, I will breathe out fading away of lust. So once you reflect on impermanence, then you begin to let go. Fading away means you letting go. You begin to let go of this, any attachment, any defilement, at least temporarily, you are free from them. So that's called fading away of lust. And when there is this fading away of lust, there is the ending of suffering, temporary ending of suffering. This is a 15th pair. He trains himself thus, I will breathe in, observing the cessation of suffering. He trains himself thus, I will breathe out, observing the cessation of suffering. So when there's no more desire, there's no more suffering. Here we're only talking about it, but in your meditation, you begin to notice it. You say, oh, okay, this is how the suffering goes away. There's no more lust, no more suffering. And the last pair, even defilements, also the negative roots temporarily go away. He trains himself thus. I will breathe in, observing the letting go of defilements. He trains himself thus. I breathe out, observing the letting go of defilements. Letting go, in other words, renunciation is the final renunciation. You renounce even defilement itself. Temporarily, you are free, totally happy at that level. So these are the 16 steps in brief. There are lots of details given to you there. Go step by step, don't rush. Read them, try to understand them. As you practice, you go back, read again. This is something you got to read again and again, because they are theory about practice. So if you don't practice it, it's still theory. Okay? So this is a guide to your practice. Section 30, this is the ending already. Rāhula, this is how the mindfulness of in and out breathing, when cultivated and continuously developed in this way, is of great fruit and great benefit. Rāhula, when the mindfulness of in and out breathing is cultivated and continuously developed in this manner, even the last breath leaves or ends with your knowledge, not without it. Now, this is amazing statement. This is the only place where Buddha says this. Then here, the Visuddhimagga explains, there's detailed notes down there, the 3 kinds of final breath. Okay, the first is that the meaning of this last breath leaves or ends is the final breath in our existence, because in this sense world, when the breathing ends, no more new breathing, that is your awakening. So that's one meaning. The awakened Arahat stops breathing, really stop breathing normal rebirth. That's the meaning. Then the second sense is that it stops in the jhanas. Now the first 3 jhanas, there is some kind of breath still, but after the 3rd jhana, 4th jhana, there's no more breath. Right? So it ends there. So that's the second meaning. The breathing doesn't arise anymore. And then the third sense given by Buddhaghosa in the Visuddhimagga is that when you talk about the 17 thought moments, or very simply, the death moment, death consciousness in the 17th moment is the same as this one. So the person passes away, there is no more rebirth. These are technical explanations. They're given in your footnote just below. In 149, you can see all the details if you miss what I said. So the Buddha finishes his teaching. The Blessed One spoke thus. Satisfied, the Venerable Rāhula rejoiced in the Blessed One's word. And so ends the Mahā Rāhulovāda Sutta. So you can see how amazing this sutta is. It appears simple, but there's lots of profound teachings which the Buddha has given to his growing young son, the 18-year-old Rāhula. Now we go on to Question time. Okay.
Thank you, Piya Tan, for sharing with us the Mahā Rāhul'ovāda Sutta. Now I open to the participants to put in the questions. Sister Isin, over to you.
Yes. All right, please turn your video on. So that,
Thank you, Brother.
yes. Yeah, go on.
Thank you, Brother Piya,
Sure.
for the Sutta teaching. The first question from Rachel. From a Buddhist perspective, is there purpose in life?
Sorry, is that? What's the last part? Repeat.
Is there purpose in life?
Oh, purpose.
Purpose.
Oh, yes, of course. Remember in one of the earlier talks, when we look at the Four Noble Truths, right? First Noble Truth is what do we see around us? There's always something unsatisfactory, there is suffering. And number two, this suffering arises from ignorance, from craving. Right? This 1 and 2 gives us the meaning of life. What is life really about? This is what you see, right? Then the third noble truth, there is the ending of suffering and the path leading to the ending of suffering. In the earlier years of Buddhism, my guess is these two are switched around. You have the path first. Instead of ending number 3, you have path number 3, and number 4 is nirvana. Okay, so our purpose is to reach the path, practice it, and be free ourselves with wisdom, so that we live happily. We can handle suffering. Okay, so our purpose of life is to know suffering and free ourselves from it. As the Buddha says, I only teach one thing: suffering and its ending. Suffering is the meaning of life, ending is the purpose of life. So that's one way of looking at it. Another way of putting it in a positive way is to be truly happy. There were occasions in my talk when I say, if you want to tell people what Buddhism is really about, it's about being really happy, truly happy, right? So the purpose of life, in that sense, is to be happy. So there is a purpose in life, yes. Okay. Next question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brother Piya. The next question from Rachel also. What element does thought belong to? Is there an element for it?
No. These elements are something like physical, the material elements. Oh yes, thank you for asking this question, because there is another set of elements. You have 4 elements, you have 5 elements, now you have the 6 elements, not often mentioned. Because the 6th element is actually another way of talking about, adding the 5 aggregates also. Because the 6th element actually is consciousness. But it's very difficult to talk about consciousness like we talk of the elements of consciousness. It's not tangible, it's not palpable, right? But we do have the 6th element. For example, in later Buddhism, we have what is called the 6 element stupa, right? So you have this, I showed this diagram in the talk on Buddhism BMM 2021, the stupa-like diagram. So you have, when you look at the pagoda or the stupa, it's built up on the 5 elements, and the top, there's a flame. The flame is consciousness, okay? So it is one of the elements, yes, but it is not a physical element. So it is not a very popular list, because it's very difficult to talk about consciousness as an element, because consciousness is not a thing. Okay? But just to complete the idea in terms of sets of elements, that there is a 6th element, also more popular with later Buddhism, but rarely mentioned in early Buddhism. Okay. Yes. Next question.
Thank you, Brother Piya. The next question from Brother Tan Kim Si. Is the statement on agreeable and disagreeable contexts that have arisen will not empower your mind and remain refers to being in a state of equanimity?
Yes, that's one way of looking at it. but then you have really well trained yourself to be in that stage, equanimity, because there is worldly equanimity. We're not really at peace with ourselves, or as we say in the local dialect, we say "bocap," bocap. You don't really care, but then you can have a sense of anger or negative thought, even, right? But here, you are calm. You're neither happy nor are you sad. This is real equanimity. It's like when you have done your work, it's all totally done, nothing more to do. You sit back. So yeah, you're happy. See, but you're happy in the equanimous sense because you have done your work. The work is finished, nothing more to do. It's in a sense the way I feel in a few minutes when I finish talking here. I'm very happy. I say, oh, okay, I finished talking. Now I can get back to my sutta work. So I have a sense of equanimity. I have a sense of accomplishment too, and a sense of freedom. I can get back to do what I like to do, for example. So it's quite tricky when you talk about equanimity in this sense, in the unawakened person. But basically, yes, we need to come to that level of mind where we are even-minded. We are neither happy nor sad. When we don't like something, we don't dislike it. We take it as it is. It's like you have a son you love, or you have a daughter you love. Whether they behave good or bad, you still love them. You support them, you take care of them, because you know they can change. The idea of change is that people can be better, things can be better, right? So in a sense, purpose of life also that things can be better, and because of that we feel happy. There is this possibility of change. Change means happiness is possible. That's one way of looking at it. Okay, next question.
Okay, thank you, Brother Piya. The next question from Sister Sandy.
Sure.
In the 5 element like reflections, the statement on agreeable and disagreeable context is referring to more to the feeling, Vedana, a reason from contact, Phasa.
Yes. Oops, it got cut off, Exim. What's the last part?
The last part is agreeable and disagreeable context is referring more to the feeling, Vedana, a reason from the contact, Phasa. Am I right?
Correct, yeah. Yes. Here, feeling refers to Vedana. It's a mental process. So when you see something you don't like, you take it as impermanent. You let it go. You smile at it also. So you don't hate it. You let it go. In a sense, you feel happy because you're not the one doing this. So you're letting it go. You show compassion because this person who is showing this negative situation is not happy, right? So you think like that, you let it go. On the other hand, you see something pleasant, you're not attracted to it in a negative way. You're not lustful towards it. You say, oh, all this is impermanent, it will go away. So let me be kind to it. Let me show loving kindness to it. The third one is tricky. It's something neither pleasant nor unpleasant, neutral. And again, here you may not know what to do to it, because I say you meet people and they're neither pleasant or unpleasant. So you take this as impermanent also. All this will pass, things will change. But this third one is more difficult to deal with, but you reflect on impermanence of it, you'll be able to manage it. So yes, it is Vedana, it's feeling. Okay, so it refers to the phasa here refers to the thought of it arising in your mind. Okay, it contacts your mind. That's the meaning here. Okay, nice. Go on.
Okay, thank you, Brother Piya. The next question from Brother Tan Kim Si.
Sure.
Is it right to say that tonight's lesson covers anicca, anatta, and dukkha?
Oh yeah, I suppose so. Mostly would be non-self. Impermanence is mentioned. Suffering indirectly, yeah. Yes, in fact, you'll find in almost all the sutta teaching which are long enough, all these three things somehow will be covered. Yes. But there's always a main theme. See? So in the main theme here, because Rāhula is already a monk, you notice the pervasive theme is actually non-self, right? Although others are mentioned, but that seems to be the main idea. Main idea doesn't mean only idea, okay? Because when you talk about non-self, you basically must also understand and accept the nature of suffering and impermanence. Okay, any other question?
Yes, thank you, Brother Piya. The next question from Vaidi. Why did the Buddha still has to meditate even though he has already attained enlightenment?
Oh, he doesn't have to meditate. The Buddha doesn't have to meditate. It's just like, you know, someone is a doctor, someone really qualified, he knows the nature of health. He will naturally not take certain kinds of food. He will naturally not have certain kind of bad habits. He knows the importance of washing hands, for example. So it comes naturally. So in the case of the Buddha, he meditates because it is good for his physical being. He often says in the Maha Sutta, for example, in suttas where, you know, where he's old, he said, oh, you know, I'm old now, my body is like this, and my body is so full of all kinds of pain. But when I go into deep meditation, the pain is gone. Because in meditation, we rise above the body. The mind frees itself from the body, so there's no pain there. So he doesn't have to meditate because his mind is naturally in a state of peace. When he goes into meditation, what he does, according to what the Sutta tells us, is that he gives the body a total rest, if you like. So he doesn't feel that pain, so that he's able to give talks, Dhamma talks, for the benefit of those who listen to him and for us, of course. Okay? All right. Let's go on.
Okay, thank you, Brother Piya. The next question from Sister Rachel.
Yes.
What element is sound? Is it wind?
Yeah, sound is interesting. Yeah, since you can say it's wind, yeah, because there is vibration, movement. Yeah. So for meditation, you can take it like that. Don't go into too much discursive thinking. Say, what is it? Start thinking that it becomes speculation. You can at least provisionally take it, since it is vibration, as movement, as wind. Okay. So yeah, go on, please.
Okay, thank you, Brother Piya. The last question from the checkbox, Sister Sandy. Was there any attainment achieved by Venerable Rāhula at the end of this discourse mentioned anywhere?
Not in this sutta, but later on he goes into meditation and he attains arahathood. Okay, so you can look up about him in the introduction about Rāhula. There's a cross-reference there, and you can Chula Rahulovada Sutta M147 says that shortly after his higher ordination, probably around 20, then he goes into meditation retreat and he attains arahathood. Chula Rahulovada Sutta M147, not translated yet. And this one earmarked for SD 70, SD volume 70 is quite a long time more. Okay? All right. So it is in note 2. You can see this is in note 2. You can read up elsewhere if you like. M147 talks about Rahula's arahathood. The 16 stages of the breath meditation, we can go into a lot of detail. There is another sutta, especially for breath, it's called Anapanasati Sutta. There you have 2 sets of 16 stages. You go into very great detail on the breath meditation. Okay? Maybe in the years to come, after we have done all the short ones, then we go to the longer suttas. Okay, so do stay on with this our series here, so that you build out your foundation. Then you're more prepared to do the longer suttas. Yeah? If there are any questions related to your practice, anything you don't understand earlier on, some other talks, you may ask. Someone asked someone made a very interesting remark previously. The person asked, what right have we to represent Buddhism? How can we talk about Buddhism when we are not even enlightened ourselves? I think this is a wonderful question, which I'm very happy this person asked it, because it shows intelligence and thinking. We should ask every speaker. I mean, it sounds a bit challenging. I mean, but maybe we can put it in a gentler way, but I don't know how we can do that to make it effective. What right do you think you have to represent Buddhism, or how do you explain the fact that you can speak for Buddhism when you're not awakened? This is a very valid question, and I ask myself very often this: what right have I to speak for the Buddha, especially? Well, in the first place, I don't speak for the Buddha. I'm not speaking for the Arahats at all. What I'm doing here is sharing the research I've done, and you all know that I've been doing all this very deep interest in what the Buddha taught. So it's more like a sharing. It's more like learning together, and many of you proofread the suttas for me too, and then you learn something there. So the idea here is that as we learn, we will teach. As we teach, we will learn. So otherwise, we sit back and we have this defeatist attitude. Oh, I'm not awakened. Let me not do anything. And let me wait for someone to come along who's enlightened, who's awakened, to teach me. Oh, I did meet someone long ago, when I was a monk. This young man, a teenager, I think, he comes along to me. He looked up to me and asked me, "Are you enlightened?" He asked me, "Are you enlightened?" And when someone asks you that kind of question, you have to. It's very silly to answer yes or no. You have to ask this person, "Why do you ask?" And then this person says, "Well, if you're not enlightened, you can't teach me. You can only teach me if you are enlightened." I didn't answer him directly. I mean, I could have answered him something like, "What makes you think I want to teach you if I'm enlightened," for example, you see? Because you might not be ready, right? So it's quite a tricky question, but it's a valid question. So I think I said something like, how will you ever know someone is enlightened? Even if the person is really enlightened, you may not know it, number one. Number two, you may be convinced that the person is enlightened when the person is not. And most of us are, when we respect a teacher, when we worship a monk especially, we like to say, "Oh, so-and-so is an arhat." Now, never say that, because to be quite honest with you, I would say it's bad karma based on delusion, because you're deluded by the fact that A is an arhat. Because by saying so, you're claiming that not knowing it, you're claiming that you yourself are an arhat. Because if you're not an arhat, you wouldn't be able to say someone else is. So you see the problem there now, right? So that's why we never talk that way, and you don't find that kind of talk in the suttas. People don't go around, especially a layman, someone's not awakened, doesn't talk like that. We keep on asking questions, we keep on learning, we build up our moral virtue, our mental concentration, and then with the wisdom, we find out more from others who are wiser than us. So it is a learning situation, all right? So because we are learning, we talk to each other, we question each other. We may not always be right, but it helps to learn from our mistakes too. Okay. Okay. Any questions in the meantime after all that?
I want to add on, Bhante, what you just said.
Okay.
What would Buddha answer if he was asked if he was enlightened? What would Buddha himself would have answered?
Oh yeah, Buddha was more clear about it because he would explain in detail what it is like. So there are some suttas which go into that sort of situation, and he gives in great detail. I mean, you got a whole Tripitaka, to support what he has said, and then you have the meditation that we do, the peace that we can feel. So the Buddha would say that, and he would rightly say so, with all the teachings he has, and you can test it for yourself through your practice. The point is, for us, it doesn't really matter because we won't know anyway until we are ourselves enlightened. So the point is we need to get there in order to really know whether Buddha is enlightened or not. The fact may be there that the Buddha is enlightened, but if we are not enlightened, it doesn't really mean much to us anyway. But the teaching is there, and when we can connect with the teaching, that is what matters to us. It's just like you meet this famous professor, you know, or you meet this really good doctor, and you need to be healed. You need to take the medicine just by knowing the doctor, or worse, by worshiping the doctor or worshiping the whomever you meet, doesn't help. You have to take the medicine yourself. So this is what the Four Noble Truths is about. So the practice aspect is important. Okay. All right. Any other question?
Thank you, Brother Piya. There's another 2 questions in the chat box.
All right. Good.
The first one from Lim Kim Heng.
All right.
Which meditation method is mentioned or widely taught by the Buddha?
I think the breath meditation is the one most common because the Buddha himself does it. And you have a sutta on that, Anapanasati Sutta by itself. So breath meditation is the easiest to do also, the safest. And as I said, historically, that's the one the Buddha used during his striving for awakening. Okay. Then for non-Buddhists, he would often teach the 4 divine abodes because many of them are familiar with it. So what the Buddha does is he uses this very popular meditation, which the Brahmins, they use it for picturing their gods and so on. So but the Buddha modified that. Instead of the gods in heaven or the gods out there, you cultivate godliness inside you. Godliness, loving kindness. So this high God has quality of loving kindness, of compassion, of joy, and of equanimity. And we cultivate that inside us. So we cultivate godliness inside us instead of worshipping all these outside us. Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you, Brother Piya. The next question from Jimmy Wong.
All right.
Can I say that all of us are Buddhists, irrespective of whatever religion he or she is in, because we are all governed by this universal law?
Yeah, I like that thought. I used to think like that too, and I think occasionally I wrote something of that. Yeah, we all are Buddhists in spirit because we know what suffering is, you know. But the problem is, not everyone would agree with us. You know, someone else can say, you know, you can use their religion and say everyone is like that. Anyway, the idea is possible in Buddhism to talk like that, in a sense that you are not a Buddhist in the sense of being a member of a group. You're a Buddhist in the sense that you're a seeker. You want to know the truth. So that's what a Buddhist is, and it's a very wonderful idea. And I think intelligent people would welcome that kind of idea. Yeah. Because the question is, you know, whether the person is looking at Buddhism in an intelligent way or simply to attack it. Right? So if you look at religion in a way of you want to discover the truth of what, I think Buddhism offers a lot. Yes, then I'll agree with you. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions?
I think that's all, Brother Piya.
Okay, so just nice,
Yes.
that timing.
Yeah.
So we can close now. Huh?
Before we close, we chant the closing salutation.
Yes. Okay. So we go on to the closing salutation. We reflect on the moment first. Like today we have studied the Maha Rahulovada Sutta on the Buddha's teaching his 18-year-old son on various meditations, especially on the 4 elements, the element-like meditation and breath meditation. So once again here we have a chance to look into the Buddha's wisdom, to remind ourselves on what are the teachings we can connect with, to better our teaching, to deepen our wisdom. We can see how wonderful the suttas are for us. And we need to create this good karma these conditions which allows us to direct our time and energy so that we grow in wisdom in this way. So this ability to come and join us is really good karma. Every time you come here, that's you are celebrating your good karma. We are celebrating it together worldwide, globally. And it is a wonderful thing to think, to feel. Reflecting on this, we feel happy, we feel joyful. And using that joy, we send out that feeling to others we care for. Even those who are not happy with us, we send out this happy energy to make them happy so that they feel happy with us. This is how we spread joy and happiness to Buddhism. So send your kind thoughts to people who are important to you, wherever they may be, to the teachers, to your loved ones, to your friends, even your enemies. Now we close with the closing salutations. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Bow down to the Buddha. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Bow down to the Dhamma. Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Bow down to the Noble Sangha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Piya, and thank you to all participants. Do join us again on the 5th of March. We have the Alaga Dupama Sutta.
Yes, the parable of the water snake. Very important sutta.
Thank you to all participants. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Happy New Year again
Okay.
to all.
Thank
Piya.
you.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night, everybody.
Wait,
Thank you.
take
Thank
photo
you.
first. Take
Oh
photo.
yeah. Okay. Yes.
Take photo.
Video on.
Thank you,
It's a
Brother
New Year
Piya.
photo. Yes. Thank you.
Turn
Happy
on,
New
please.
Year.
Happy New
Everybody.
Year.
Your photos,
New
your
Year.
videos, please.
Happy New
Thank you.
Year.
Yeah. Okay. Videos on for New Year photo.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Some people got very good background.
Yes. Very nice. Yeah.
Sisterly thing, lo.
Beautiful. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So video on. Smile.
Brother
New
Yu
Year,
Chong,
New Year
your
smile.
video. Oh, okay.
Okay. Right.
Wait,
Okay.
wait. There's still some people turning on.
Okay. Yes. Just waiting for us. A few more people.
Okay, put your palms together and
Right.
say cheese.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Wait,
New
wait.
Year.
Some
New Year.
people I only see the head. Can we have the full face or
Yeah,
not?
try-
Since it's
try
New
to-
Year, we must
Yeah.
take a really good photo.
Adjust your camera. So that we
Sister
can-
Phyllis, cannot
Yeah.
see your face.
No, some people are shy. You can allow them to be shy. It's okay.
Yes.
Okay, this one.
Sister Gexiu, no light.
Okay.
Can turn on your light or not?
Yeah. Okay.
A bit dark.
All right.
Okay. Smile.
Yes. Yes.
Sister Pamuja. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait lah.
Mm.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Say cheese. Okay.
Okay.
Next page. Wow. Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Right.
Say
I mean,
cheese.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Peace.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Happy New Year.
Thank
Okay.
you. Happy New
Yeah.
Year. Bye-bye.
Yes,
Thank you, Brother Piya.
Thank you,
Brother
Brother
Piya.
Thank you. Thank you all. Blessed New Year.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu.
Sister Ratna.
All over the world. Eh?
Welcome.
Night.
See you soon.
Yeah, see you again. Yeah, it's coming. End of the month, just one more. The next one is on the fire aggregate part 2. Yeah. Okay.